Let's go ahead and knock it out.
Yeah, let's do this real quick, Hafey. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
How long have we been on the show?
An hour 34.
All right, we gotta go.
Yeah. Oh, we good.
Make it quick.
We good. Real quick, please tell everybody what the surgery you just had.
So a little bit of context. I was born with a congenital aortic heart valve defect. It's called a bicuspid aortic valve. Just got to the point where it needed to be fixed. So I had what's called a Ross procedure.
After 40 years of life, he got to the point where it just needed to be fixed.
You're trying to make another 40.
A lot of people go a lot longer before they need it fixed, but for me, for whatever reason, it was younger. But it's an open heart surgery, and what they do is they take out your aortic valve, they move your pulmonary valve where your aortic valve was, and then they bring in an outside cadaver valve to replace your pulmonary valve, stitch you back up, and you're good to go.
So you're like RoboCop now.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
You was about to say something like that?
Well, I went to the house, and while you were telling me everything, I was just asking, what all that kind of stuff. As you were answering me and telling me this, I was like, only thing I could think was the podcast. That's the only thing I could think. I know. No, I wasn't listening to you. I was thinking about the podcast.
First thing Shawn said when I saw him though is he said, "Oh, you look old." That's what he first said.
I don't know, man. I don't know what's wrong with me. Here's the point of why I wanted you to kind of talk about that. How long did your surgery take?
I think it's like 5.5 hours.
Open heart. They just right down in the middle and go in and do what they got to do, and they stitch you back together.
Yep.
Talk about the trust factor there. You trust them. You don't know these people. You know what they do. You've researched all that kind of stuff, but it's not your wife. You haven't known them for 10, 20 years, and you have to trust your life with these people. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of that going. I mean, I thought through every possible scenario leading up to it. There's a lot of thought that goes into that. It's, your life is literally in the hands of people you've never met for 5-6 hours. I mean, they literally have to stop your heart to operate on it, and you're on them. You're trusting a machine that acts. It's called a heart-lung machine that literally acts as your heart and your lungs to keep you alive for the course of the procedure. So you just kind of have to do your research, but at a certain point, you just got to let go and trust. Yep.
And then what about your family? What kind of like the emotional and the mental state that everybody was dealing with, as you were approaching?
I had a great support system, just friends and family, whether it was reaching out and, giving me positive messages, positive vibes, people offering to help out, buy me a meal or whatever it was, bring me anything. There's a lot of people that kind of came to the rescue in a sense to help out and make sure that all the pressure was off. And actually, by the time I actually had the surgery, my mind was clear, and that was a blessing because all anxiety was gone. I could just go into it and knowing everything was going to be all right.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember when we talked about it, it was like maybe 2 weeks before you left or something like that. We were talking about it. Say, hey man, how you feeling? He's like, man, I'm going through a lot of different emotions, a lot of different thoughts. Can you kind of, if you can, like explain like how you handled it, if you can?
Just thinking through it. I mean, a lot of journaling. My wife, Charlene, was a big help just in allowing me to open up and she was going through it too.
Yeah.
But just the ability to be able to open up and really talk about it. And again, friends and family who opened up their DMs and their phones to me to allow me to call and just kind of vent. And to just ultimately to know that there are a lot of people out there that really cared. It was a massive help.
One more thing for me. I don't know if you got anything from me, but in terms of talking, because I think that's one thing I really touch on as far as the motivation goes, is I try to get people to understand that they have to talk. They have to vent, let it out.
Allow me.
Did you understand that you needed to do that, or was it as you were doing it, you were like, feel a lot better?
I've learned the importance of that growing, as I got older. That wasn't something that was a big part of my childhood. Like it wasn't instilled in me that, people my age, it's, you're not taught growing up that you need to talk things out. For me, it was something that I kind of had to learn, and I still struggle with it sometimes, especially as a man. You know, we're kind of taught to just be strong and power through.
Yeah.
But the older you get, you know, the older I got, the more I learned the importance of it. Yeah, for sure.
My boys are 4 and 2, and I actually got this saying from Barry. He'll say, "Hey, you do a wrong move in the ring," and he'll get in the ring. He said, "All right, let's talk about it. What did you see? What were you thinking? Like, what happened there?" And I say this to the boys, are crying hysterically. They're up mad and upset and all that. I'm saying, hey, calm down. Let's talk about it. Because I didn't grow up like that. I didn't grow up talking about things. I didn't understand how to talk about things. And I didn't know until I got much older that actually talking about things gave you release. Talking about things helped you work it out for yourself or whomever you were speaking to help you to work out the situation and things like that. You have anything for Hafey?
Oh no, man! I'm just happy you made it through. Happy you're here, bro. Like
happy you made it through.
Because obviously you're happy you made it through. But yeah, I just know like me and Hafey, actually all three of us, it's just like we got so many people that depend on us.
Yeah,
and I couldn't imagine like one thing goes wrong in this moment. Like a lot of people depend on me, so I couldn't imagine you going through that. Because you know, like Shawn said, do you drive crazy? Nothing, but it's like we do everything at the end of the day to get home every night.
Yeah.
But you went through something that it's like, man, I got to count on a stranger to make sure I get back to my family, because I'm pretty sure that was the number one thing in the back in your head the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about the people that rely on you. You got to make sure that they're good while you're gone. But then there's also, I mean, you have to think about like what happens if I don't make it out. Like that has to cross through your mind.
Yes.
Like you have no choice but to think about it. So it's a lot.
2 things. Number one, I was in Atlanta yesterday, and then we drove to South Carolina to go to my little brother, my stepbrother. He's not little. My stepbrother's football game. Shout out to Eli. He did a great job, and his team won.
What college?
Benedict College.
Okay.
HBCU.
Shout out to Wax. Wax went to Benedict.
We're on our way,
Wax.
and my stepfather just pulls off on the side of the road. And then he starts to put in the directions for the thing.
Oh, I thought we had a flat.
I was like, who just pulls over on the side of the road? And you feel the cars go by. And I said,
So he hit the
I said, Tom, I'm gonna kick your butt, man. Because the only thing I could think was if somebody go by not paying attention, if somebody go by too fast or too close or anything like that at all, I got to get back to my kids.
Yeah.
So in closing, glad you made it through.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm proud of how you handled it. I just
You did a damn
I
good
wasn't
job,
there
man.
every step of the way, but I mean, I just think that you handled it great. And I think that the motivation that people can get from this, even though you're not going through heart surgery, even though it may not be a life or death situation. I saw just last week while we were live that somebody said that they were like in a bad state of depression, but they're working, but they're still working like they're still moving through it, you know? And I said, hey man, don't sit in it. Talk to somebody, let it out, find some help. Don't sit in it. And what I want for everybody to understand is even though you may have a problem, a situation, anything going on, you don't have to sit in it. You don't have to stay alone in it. And you can always revert your mind. You can always think of something more positive. You can always put yourself in a more positive position so that you have a more positive heart, more positive mind through whatever it is you're going through. And I think that that's what you did, Hafey. I think that you knew, like, hey, if I don't talk about this, it's going to eat me up. So let me write it down. If I don't talk about this, it's going to eat me up. So let me find somebody who can tell me a joke. Like sometimes, you know, what they say, laughter is medicine for the soul. You know what I mean? So understand that whatever state of mind you're in, whatever you're dealing with, you don't have to sit in it. You don't have to stay in that moment. Find something, find someone that can help you through whatever it is you're going through, and or yourself. If you just like, hey, I'm alone, I got nobody. Go to the movies. Find a date. go to Wendy's, go to Taco Bell. Do something, but don't sit in it. The longer you sit in the disaster, the bigger the disaster becomes. Mm-hmm.